buddy.
Hugs.
Hugs.
Everything is hugs.
Everything is hugs. I am now emotionally invested.
Yeah.
Hi, welcome to Monster Vlogs. I'm Charlie.
I'm Haley.
And we have watched episode Trace of Stranger Things Season 1, titled Holly Jolly. And yeah, this is where things get tear-jerky.
This is where things get real.
And definitely picking up more on the whole Nightmare on Elm Street aspect that you mentioned. Especially seeing as the main girl's name is Nancy. 3 episodes in, that's finally dawning on me.
That's okay. The whole Nightmare on Elm Street circumstance comes into play more now and going on. Because
the inquiry that I had last time about whether Barb died is now more of a ... dash-ish. So...
But that interplay of sex and violence.
Yeah.
That was well edited.
That was craving up the ace. 11 gets to fly a Millennium Falcon before we do at Galaxy's Edge, so there's that.
Let's take this by storyline. Let's start with Nightmare on Elm Street since we...
Nightmare on Elm Street, well...
started that.
Well, clearly, we learned that the boyfriend, Steven, is a complete and total douche nozzle. Which... who'da thunk?
A guy named Steve, set in the 80s, with that little Ferris Bueller curl, is a douchey guy.
That is a Ferris Bueller. Oh my god, is he the guy in the Domino's commercials with the same...
Yes, that is the same guy. That's why they picked him.
I should play those Domino's commercials if you're not aware of them.
How could I possibly be expected to go without Domino's on a day like this?
But I really like Nancy's arc of being that kind of Miss Perfect. I can't get into trouble at all costs, so I'm going to prop up my entire life on these increasingly perilous ledges of probability, and she's kind of realizing that affects people
very
now.
Quickly at learning that.
And like her arc is really jumping off, and I'm enjoying that.
It's very quickly kind of like developing into something that she's learning that it's probably not a good idea that I slept with Domino's guy.
Well, more like lying about it and getting your friend to lie about it with you.
And possibly sending her
your
off
friend
into
to die.
another dimension to get eaten by, like, Slender Man now?
By a giant swirly face alien.
By Jumanji plant face alien. That's what we were trying to get at last time.
There you go. In episodes prior, you would see her like give increasingly elaborate lies to her mom to kind of give up this facade of the goody two-shoes girl, which she still kind of wanted to be, but she also wanted to explore these new things, like a relationship with a dude. And
I also noticed, like, this episode, like, especially after the events of the Ceci Time night, they put her in muted colors.
Yeah.
Like, her entire perspective was all, like, through rose-colored glasses, and then, nope, this is the real world, girl.
And that kind of conversation she has with her mom after she gets home late.
Yeah.
Is...
You can tell me.
Because Mom knows. She totally knows. And she probably knows from experience.
That's how she ended up here. But...
And that cannot be a comfortable talk to have with one's mother. I walked into marriage not having it, so.
This is fresh little flower.
But the boys, gear up for their elongated mission that's...
Now to Monster Squad.
Yeah, now to Monster Squad. That they gear up for their quest to fight the Demigorgon.
With Twinkies and Pringles.
Twinkies and Pringles and a slingshot, which...
And binoculars from Nam.
And a knife, also from Nam.
I love that little aside.
Because I'm guessing that his father went to Nam.
More than likely.
More than likely. And he is the product of his father coming home from Nam. Like, Elle does the whole exploring thing, and
by herself this time.
By herself this time, so it was
so she watches He-Man.
So it was the Elliot at school E.T. exploring the house by himself scene of the whole E.T. thing. Yes, it does get more E.T. as she said last time. But she's oddly triggered a lot in this episode.
Well, she has very little contact with the outside world.
Right.
In the place she came to before, and the things she does have contact with sometimes have very traumatic memories attached, like a Coca-Cola can. A
Coke can and a cat and something else that I can't remember. Like being locked in the closet. That was in the that was in the last episode.
That was the last. It was only 2 flashbacks this time. But the
one was a more elongated flashback where we get to see, oh man, you do not want to f with this girl.
She will snap your neck.
She will snap your neck.
Like it was a matchstick.
I mean,
just like that.
I mean,
like the casual neck snap.
I mean, the consequences of doing that aren't unseen.
Like she looks like she got ran over by a truck afterwards.
Yeah. But
the flashbacks are a good excuse to give us kind of the context of where she came from.
Right.
And that 80s dude's supreme badness.
And the dude and the main lab dude, like I forget his name. They said
Dr. Brenner.
Brenner. Needs to be burned. Probably will be. I don't know. Like the way that he just holds her like an infant after that happens, and just walking down the hallway with her. It's like
it's that interplay of affection and complete coldness that is just so off-putting.
It is.
It is frightening.
But at the same time, you can kind of tell that Elle's character is also a little bit soothed by it. Because it is
only parental figure she's ever known.
Yeah, it's the most minimal amount of affection she's shown. Like, after this traumatic experience that she just had. Like, she committed murder probably for the first time.
With her mind. Mind
bullets! and she doesn't know how to process it because how can she?
Because her dad just comes in, he's like, magnificent. He's like, just screw you, shut up.
Yeah.
Take this baby away from all this.
Meanwhile, in Twin Peaks,
which part of Twin Peaks? Mom Twin Peaks or Sheriff Twin Peaks?
Oh, jeez. Because Mom Twin Peaks, she goes full crazy cat lady. And decorates her house with Christmas lights, hence the title of the episode. Because she realizes that the Christmas lights, or really the lights in general, are the only way that she can communicate with Will. But she strings the Christmas lights, and the really interesting and brilliant thing that they did was the way that Will wants to call attention to something is that the production design set up the lights so that they flicker in a path and light up a path, and I thought that was just, oh my god, so amazing. But her son is now full on you are going crazy, Mom. You need to get some sleep.
Please sleep, Mother.
Please sleep.
Please, Mother.
And Mike's mom comes over with her daughter, the wonderful cutaway gem that she is daughter. Finally pays off in this episode. I knew you're calling attention to her for a reason.
Because she finds the lamp room.
She finds the lamp room, and
the lamp room starts lighting up.
It starts lighting up, and frightener things starts happening with the wall, and we realize that it's not Will at all. It's Mr. Stranger Thing. I might call him that, Mr. Stranger Thing.
Okay.
Finally, Winona Ryder starts how do I communicate with you, Will?
Which I always thought this was such a brilliant plan, was to put the letters under the Christmas lights.
Yes. But everything about this episode is so good. This is episode 2 Daredevil hallway scene good. This whole episode.
Everyone I've heard is pretty on board for the first 2, but then they're all in by 3. 3's the heavy hitter. But then everything kind of culminates at the end.
Everything, it all converges like at the end, where, you know, the sheriff and his deputy are like getting a call or like researching the lab, and
like,
they get a
the sheriff
call.
was like really good, did some detective stuff today, because he managed to get in like at least the receptionist area of the lab.
Right.
And even that was like pulling teeth. But
and you know, looking over the security footage, which they were not showing him the correct footage or all the footage because it was raining that night, and he points out that there was no rain in the footage that they showed him.
And that's something that you can understand on your own. Like, that's a piece of the mystery you can get on your own.
Mm-hmm.
So that when he points it out, you're like, oh, yeah. Yeah, like, I always like when shows do that, where they don't leave the detective to tell you all the mystery clues.
Yeah.
You can figure it out on yourself. And, like, you could tell he wasn't in there to look for the kid. He was in there to look for the truth. For the truth.
Which, you know, would have led him to Will, and it does eventually? Like, alright. Everybody in the episode, all the characters are like, that body that they found in that lake is Will. The camera does not really show it very well. I don't know until the next episode. So for all intents and purposes, I can't tell you if that's Will or not, unless it's based on the information given to me by the characters, and all they're saying is that that's Will, so I'm going to say Will ?
Well, not all the characters are in agreement, so...
Yeah, because, I mean, 11 knows exactly where Will is. She led them to his house, and they were like, what the hell?
Winona Ryder had the Christmas light conversation with him.
And he was right there at that point, kind of. Plus, her whole setup of turning the D&D board upside down and putting Will's wizard character right there, and us seeing, like, this alternate, like...
first scene with Barb.
The first scene with Barb in this sort of negative zone area of exactly where she was.
Like,
so,
it's the same place, but it's a different dimension.
Exactly. So, like, it could be like Mr. Stranger Things dimension, which probably is. And that's what they were trying to, you know, go into the lab, because it's starting to create, like, this little portal thing.
This kind of fleshy, bulbous fungus portal.
Yeah. Which that lends a lot to, that, I can't really put my finger on it. It's probably a little bit of The Thing, and also a little bit of, like, something else that I can't really put my finger on.
Maybe like The Mist?
A little bit, yeah. But, yeah, we're not talking about aesthetics in this video yet, so good for that, I guess.
I have one thing.
She has one thing to say about the aesthetics, and I think we'll call it a night, because you got an early day.
Yes, I do. So I talked about how last time that this show showed a side of the 80s that you don't usually see in shows about the 80s.
I probably cut that out, so you might want to tell people about that.
Okay, so I commented last week about how the aesthetics in this show isn't like the glossy kind of Miami Vice 80s we're used to seeing from modern day depictions of the 80s. It's more the wooden paneling, the kind of gross carpets, the leftovers from the 70s, a very middle class and working class 80s that only really survives in our parents' Christmas and vacation footage. This week, something I noticed is that it is so committed to that aesthetic that it becomes timeless. Because a lot of, especially like television shows that will depict the, like a past era, they'll kind of wink and nod, like, no, we know we're a modern day show, we're just showing you our version of the 80s.
Right.
Usually in regards to making a lady dressed in the 80s times, but to the standards of beauty of the modern times.
Yeah.
Like Chicago, flapper dresses were a lot less booby. And like, no, we're actually going to show the curve of Catherine Zeta-Jones' ass, because we know we're in the modern day. We're just going to pretend like we're in the 20s.
We know where the male gaze is at. I still have yet to see that video.
You should. It's good.
I know.
But it's, you know what I mean? Like, so many times shows and films will try to update that aesthetic to the modern aesthetic to make it look appealing, I guess. But this show didn't do that. It dedicated so fully to that kind of late 70s, early 80s aesthetic that you can't exactly place it. It doesn't date itself as a period piece. It just becomes that time period, and it becomes those pictures of your grandmother that are kind of fuzzy in your mind but stand out.
Like literally every time they cut to Winona Ryder's house, I feel like I could smell my grandmother's house when I was a kid, because it had like that kind of caked on nicotine smell to it. And of course she's a chain smoker, and even more now because her son's missing, so gotta cut the edge off somehow. I just want more. I want more. Next episode. What's the next episode? Let's watch episode 4 and go. Let's not do it.
Not yet.
And go.
Sounds like we might be binging it later.
We might be binging it later and possibly vlogging about it after every single
And hugs.
And hugs. All the hugs. Everybody
Everything
gets
is
a
hugs.
hug. Even
Everyone
Mr.
gets
Stranger
hugs.
Thing, because he just wants love and blood. I will give
And
him only
noms.
love. I will feed him Twinkies and Eggos. I know where this is going, kind of. But all of the love for everybody and
Yay, hugs.
also the sheer amount of betrayal that Mike felt toward 11.
That's some great kid acting right there.
That's just like,
That's some
wow,
fantastic
you
kid
turn on
acting
a
right there.
dime, sir.
'Cause he's a child and he's experiencing mortality for the first time. Like unexpected mortality.
But is it a mortality? Is
We
it?
will find out.
We'll find out on the next episode.
Yeah.
So, all the links in the video will be at the end.
Blah,
The
blah,
last
blah,
20
blah,
seconds.
blah,
You
blah.
know where to click in. Also, bye. Much love.
Bye.
Promise.
Hugs.
Hugs.